but that's not the case.
And so, are you, the people you're speaking to, are they asking for assistance from other opposition movement people in the east of the country to come towards Tripoli?
Yes, to help the fight. I mean, they're not allowed to leave their houses, so they're trying to get external help from Benghazi and from Zawiya. But as you know, Misrata is surrounded by tanks and Zawiya is surrounded by tanks, so they've limited those folks of even being able to enter Tripoli. I mean, it's kind of like they've sieged off those areas, so they can't come help them.
Okay, Ahmed Shabani, thank you very much indeed for giving us your perspective there on events in Tripoli. Well, let's get more on the situation in eastern Libya. Hodar Abdelhamid joins us live from Benghazi. Hodar, I don't know whether you could hear our guest there saying that ideally some of the people in Tripoli would like help from places like Benghazi, but they're not sure if it can actually reach them. Are people there prepared to make that journey?
Well, I would say that ideally they are prepared to make that drive. You do hear a lot of calls from community elders, quite influential people, calling on the youth to mobilize and try to go west. You've heard that during demonstrations, you've heard that during speeches. Now they do get training, they do say that they want to go, but it's an extremely difficult task to carry out. And in the first place, it's to start with a very long drive on a road where there would be very little traffic, so very easy to pinpoint from the sky, to locate from the sky, so they're very vulnerable in that situation. They also have to go through Sirte, the hometown of Gaddafi, which is also a base for some of his most elite paramilitary forces. And from what we understand, there's a buffer zone around that town that goes about 45 kilometers around the city. So a very difficult task from that road. Now there's another option, is to try to go through the desert, and that would take a 2-day trip to reach there, and there's a lot of risks also trying to go there. So I would say that at this stage there is the will. We did hear report of small groups of people who actually made their way there, but I wouldn't say there's a big mobilization because of all these dangers.
You mentioned the vulnerability to possible airstrikes, and we saw earlier on Thursday more airstrikes in the area of Brega. How concerned are people there that they've got enough in the way of defences to counter that?
Well, I think that's the biggest concern for people here, especially in Benghazi. They do think if there's any counter-offensive, it will be from the air, thinking that probably for ground troops to come here, it will be quite difficult because they would be met by a fierce resistance. And that's why you do hear people on the street saying, what is the international community doing? Why is it not imposing a no-fly zone as quick as possible? And then the National Council, which is now, let's say, the official body that represents this uprising, has officially called for the UN and the international community to impose a no-fly zone, and went one step further, asking the international community actually to carry out pinpointed airstrikes, probably on the defense system of the country, on the sort of strongholds of these elite forces, on anything that can really debilitate and weaken the counter-offensive machine by the government.
And so far, Hodar, as we know, there's been no consensus within the international community about what to do about a no-fly zone, but there have been moves from the International Criminal Court today. Give us a sense of the reaction there to the moves by the Chief Prosecutor.
Well, that has been very much welcome. Some people have said it has been long overdue, pointing out to the fact that the massacres did not happen just since the 15th of February, since this uprising started, but actually they point out to several massacres that have very much marked the Libyan society. For example, here in Benghazi, what they call the massacre of the Italian embassy, in which 22 people were killed back in 2006. So there is a whole series of grievances that the people have been bottling up inside them. You would hear once in a while slogans condemning Gaddafi, saying that he's a butcher, saying that he's a killer, saying that he has massacred the people of Libya. So certainly the move of the International Court is welcomed here, but I think they would like to see in the immediate something more tangible that would actually provide safety for the people, and that's where we go back to the no-fly zones issue. you.
OK, Hoda Abdelhamid, thank you very much indeed for bringing us that live update there from Benghazi. Well, concern is growing for hundreds of thousands of people who are trying to flee Libya and for the many foreigners who are still stuck inside the country. AlJazeera's James Bays has the latest from the Tunisian border.
There are about 20,000 people still on the Tunisian side of this border. Slowly they are leaving here in buses, taking them to planes, taking them to ships that will carry them on their way home. The area of concern, though, now is about people who haven't got this far, who are still inside Libya, people who, because of the colour of their skin, are in hiding, frightened about what might happen to them at the hands of both government and opposition supporters. Listen to these comments from an official, a senior official for the International Organization for Migration.
The fact of the matter is that today we're not seeing West Africans, we're not seeing sub-Saharan Africans coming out of the borders. The information that we are getting from inside Libya is that most of those nationals are terrified. They're living at home, they're hiding, their fear of being victims of xenophobic violence. We're getting emails of people who are saying they're running out of water, they're running out of food, they're running out of medicine.
I've been here for the last few days, and only in the last couple of hours have I met a group of people from one of the sub-Saharan African nations, from Ghana. Now, they told me some horrifying stories. They said that they had seen African men who'd been forced to join the pro-Gaddafi supporters, had been given guns and told to fight. And they'd also spoken by phone to some of their friends who are in opposition-held areas where they're actually in hiding because they fear they will be attacked and possibly killed.
James Bays there. Well, the influx of refugees from the unrest in Libya has gone to the tiny island of Lampedusa. That's continuing. For the very latest, let's cross to Stephen Cole in our European News Centre. Stephen?
Thanks, Lauren. Yes, in the last 2 days alone, more than 500 North African migrants have landed on the island of Lampedusa. Most of them are thought to have come from Tunisia. Italian authorities are worried that the Lampedusa landings have now resumed following a 6-day break because of bad weather, stormy seas. The island is only capable of taking 800 people in the holding centre, and that is almost full. Last month, Italy said it planned to deploy security forces in an attempt to stop illegal immigration. In the last couple of hours, the International Criminal Court in The Hague has announced a full investigation into alleged human rights violations in Libya. It means the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi, his sons and members of their inner circle could be held responsible for crimes committed by their security forces. The chief prosecutor, Luis Moreno Ocampo, said no one had the right to massacre civilians. Let's cross now to The Hague and Alan Fisher. Alan, Mr. Ocampo said Gaddafi and his family would be investigated for their actions, as well as the actions of the demonstrators. But did he outline exactly what he'd be looking at?
Well, the whole issue was referred to the International Criminal Court by the UN Security Council. All 15 members there decided that there was something to be looked at because of the events in Tripoli and elsewhere over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And certainly the ICC believes